What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. This is my review, fresh out of the theater, for Captain America Brave New World. As you all know, my name is Unfiltered. Go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button. Really appreciate it. Really helps the channel out. Helps me out a great deal. And also, if you like my content, just feel free to, do the thing. Hit the like and subscribe. Now, fresh as of today, officially releasing worldwide, I believe tomorrow, Valentine's Day, is Captain America Brave New World. That's right, the fourth installment into the Captain America franchise, because that's what it technically falls under. This follows the journey of Sam Wilson as he ascends into the role of Captain America following the events of Falcon and Winter Soldier. And we have Harrison Ford taking over the duties of Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross from the late, great William Hurt. We have Joaquin Torres. We also have Giancarlo Esposito playing Sidewinder. We also have Tim Blake Nelson reprising his role as Samuel Stearns, aka the leader. Okay, first of all, fresh, open, out of the theater thoughts, spoiler free. I had a good time with it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed what I saw. I thought it was fun. I thought, and that's the F word no one likes to hear when it comes to any of these movies. But being a fan of the Captain America films initially, First Avenger, Winter Soldier, Civil War, I liked what they did. By they, I mean Marvel Studios. So when it came time to do this one, I was like, oh, cool. New Captain America movie. Obviously, Anthony Mackie playing Sam Wilson will be the main. He will headline it. He got the headline title for it following the events of Falcon and Winter Soldier. There were a few things that I wasn't necessarily fond of. I'm not going to say I hated it. I'm not going to say like it was terrible. And I've seen a lot of like really mixed reactions to this movie, which I find kind of jarring, because more often than not, Marvel Studios does hit when they need to, and when they miss pretty hard. But even then, they don't miss that often. And it's so, again, jarring to me that so many people are just kind of dogging on this movie for reasons I'm not even sure of, because honestly, I avoided seeing anything potentially spoilery, or just even just certain friends. I just kind of avoided seeing their overall reactions until I had saw it myself and formed my own opinion. But yeah, just spoiler-free thoughts. I really liked it. I thought Anthony Mackie did a pretty great job this time around as Sam Wilson. I don't think he's ever really given a bad performance as the character. I think Harrison Ford stepping in for William Hurt was a really great choice. He's clearly having a really great time in this movie. Danny Ramirez, that's the actor's name who plays Joaquin Torres. Yeah, he's fun. There was one moment with his character where I was like, okay, that you could have cut that. The film would have been fine. It's one humorous little ding thing, and it's just like, okay, that's cute, but wasn't really necessary. Not particularly. No, it happens really early on in the movie. Didn't quite totally take me out of it, but there was one moment early on in the movie that they do with his character, and it's kind of played for giggles, and I was like, all right, whatever. Let's see. I feel really bad because I'm forgetting the actress who played Sabra in this, so I'm just gonna do a quick Google search. Let's see, Captain America: Brave New World. Here we go. Okay. Let's see. Shira Haas. There we go. She plays Ruth Bat Seraph. She wasn't too bad, and she plays a character. Her character from the comics is apparently, it struck a chord. Controversy due to things going on in the real world, which I can understand. They altered the character in the MCU to better fit the MCU, which is not out of the realm of possibility. They've done it before plenty of different times. They did it with Taskmaster. Whether or not people liked it, that's an entirely different story. But yeah, overall, I had fun with this movie. I thought there wasn't really a bad performance by anybody, but I will just say that the one thing I really didn't like, honestly, and it's not even that big of a deal, is the way the leader looked, and that's played by Tim Blake Nelson, who plays Samuel Stearns in the film. I was just kind of like, well, there's a lot to be desired with that design. So before I forget, Carl Lumley. Carl Lumley does a phenomenal job in this movie as Isaiah Bradley, and he is kind of a linchpin in this movie. and a very big one. Like a lot of the plot centers around something that happens to him, and it makes the movie move along. And I quite enjoyed seeing what he had to offer opposite Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson. Okay, so of the things that I didn't like outside of the leader, the whole nanotech helmet thing has become kind of a trope for Marvel Studios. Ignore my kittens, they're having fun in the background, but that's not that big of a deal. They're having as much fun as I'm sure Harrison Ford and Anthony Mackie were in this movie. But seriously, like I think that the nanotech helmet thing was just it's getting kind of overdone. I'm not really a fan of it. It just feels like a really lazy, easy way for characters to take their helmet or headpieces on and off at a whim, and I'm just getting kind of tired of it. Kind of hoping it's going to end, but I know it's not going to end. Also, the score. I don't know who composed the score for this movie, but it was certainly something to be desired because it was nothing like Henry Jackman's score in Winter Soldier, and I don't know if he did Civil War. Did he do Civil War? I don't think he did Civil War. I don't think so. Who did Civil War? Music. Okay, yeah, Henry Jackman did Civil War and Winter Soldier. And it looks like the music was composed by Laura Cartman. I'm not going to say it was terrible, but it definitely wasn't memorable. There were certain bits in the score that just kind of felt like, are these sounds and noises all that necessary? I don't know, but it was honestly my issues with this movie are minimal. And I know this movie went through a ton of rounds of reshoots, even more recently, to include Giancarlo Esposito as Sidewinder. And I gotta be honest, like looking through this movie as I was watching this movie, there were a few shots that stood out, and I was like, okay, yeah, well, obviously everything with Giancarlo Esposito was a reshoot. That much, if you knew they were a reshoot going into it, you knew what you were looking for with him in that. I would say though that it is very well put together for being so late in the game in terms of reshooting that with an already cut film. What was cut, I don't know. Maybe it'll get talked about somewhere down the line. Maybe it won't. Not really sure. Not really too worried about it. But yeah, there were, again, a couple shots in the film that I just felt could have maybe been polished a little bit better. There's honestly one shot towards the end where Sam is fighting the Red Hulk, and I was like, oh, that looks bad. It didn't look good at all. It looked pretty bad. Like, you could tell it's just Anthony Mackie just behind a screen, and it's just very not photogenic. It is just almost a poor Photoshop job. Other than that, though, a lot of the vast majority of the film looked great. Like, it was done really well. I didn't think it was completely like, you know, a shoot in the foot situation, but they missed once or twice with a couple of the VFX shots, not gonna lie. I guess to kind of start things off, I wonder if anyone like has a problem with the narrative of this movie. And again, after having gone through like 2 or 3 rounds of reshoots, I gotta say, like, I feel like they stitched something together that was more or less cohesive and pretty easy to follow. What was cut? Again, I don't know. There were rumors and rumblings of more of the Serpent Society in this movie, which, okay, whatever. But the large, big plot of it kind of really surrounds Sam Wilson, Isaiah Bradley, Harrison Ford as Thaddeus Ross, and of course Tim Blake Nelson is the leader. Like the primary plot focuses on things that transcribe between those characters. Now, Sam Wilson stepping into the role of Captain America, it's a far cry from the ending of Falcon and Winter Soldier, where now he's more recognized by people, both in the military and the real world, as Cap. They call him Cap. They call him Captain America. And it's actually really great to see that visualized in the MCU, because obviously Chris Evans has made no bones about the fact that he's probably not going to return as Captain America at all, which honestly I'm fine with. If they move forward with Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson in the MCU as the Captain America. Cool. That's kind of where they should head. And that's another thing in the movie. Like pretty early on, Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross is like, I want you to rebuild the Avengers. And that's like a question that lingers through Sam throughout the entire movie. He's like, if I do, that means we work for Ross. And if we work for Ross, we're just going to be tools of the government. And the Sokovia Accords, basically, from Civil War, like, those just get more pertinent. Like, those become more, imposed. And we feel like another extension of the government that essentially kind of broke us apart. And that's another thing, like even Thaddeus Ross in this movie, he's kind of coming to terms with his past transgressions and actions that he's performed on certain people, and yet it also kind of comes to bite him in the ass when it comes to the leader, because that's the whole leader's motivation throughout the movie, is he's very angry, pun intended, at the fact that Thaddeus Ross has gone through all of this. There's a big reveal that happens between those two characters, that I don't think I feel like spoiling for anybody, because obviously I've never been big on spoiling much of anything for these movies, especially when I do my reviews for them. But there is a pertinent plot point that reveals something about those two in the MCU, and it really does a great job of explaining why you haven't seen the leader in like 16 years. And honestly, this just brings me to another thing that I thought about on my ride home after watching this movie. I saw a lot of people say it's basically like kind of a soft sequel to The Incredible Hulk. Sure, you could say that. It's also a sequel to Falcon and Winter Soldier, and it's a happy blend of the two. Is that a detriment to the movie? I can't really say for sure. I don't think it is, but then again, I'm coming at it from the perspective of, I like the Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I like the Incredible Hulk. So I was probably going to like whatever happened in this movie, no matter what. But I would also posit that maybe, just maybe, if you were going in expecting a film that is along the lines of Winter Soldier, like Marvel Studios and crew have been touting and saying this is, well, you might come out a little disappointed, because there's some very extravagant things that happen in this film that really kind of take you off the ground. No pun intended. Because they're dealing with some very, fantastical things. The island, the Tiamat Island, they call it the Celestial Island in this movie, has finally been addressed since Eternals. Since the Eternals happened. And the reason, I just saw this from Nate Moore, who was a producer at Marvel Studios for the longest time, who's recently going to end his tenure there. I believe it's Nate Moore. Yes, it's Nate Moore. Anyway, he said if we were going to address the Celestial Island, that we wanted it to make sense and not just have it be in the background as a, oh, hey, look at that, for every movie. And I'm like, okay, that makes total sense. That's a perfectly valid reason why you wouldn't want to show something like that. But the thing is, here's a minor fun spoiler, but this has been making the rounds since Comic-Con. What is in Celestial Island? I'll tell you something. Adamantium. Technically, adamantium's already been introduced in the Marvel Cinematic Universe by way of Deadpool and Wolverine, but as an actual metal, as a resource, this is another big thing in this movie. Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross wants to utilize adamantium. He wants the United States to use it for resources, be it weapons, defense, medicine, you name it. He wants to use it. And that's kind of a thing that the rest of the world's like, should we really be, can we work together on this? Like that's another like plot of the film. Well, it's part of the plot of the film, I should say. And it drives things forwards because it's kind of like not a tense-filled situation, but like, it's a very touchy thing, because when you have other countries in the conversation of a certain resource, things can become very tense very quickly. And that's exactly what the leader has been waiting for. That's exactly what Samuel Stearns wants. He wants this whole situation to completely blow up in Ross's face and make him look like the bad guy. Which, well, does he get what he wants? Yeah, more or less. Not really, but no. He that's the thing. Like, it feels very convenient that Samuel Stearns, the leader, has been away all this time, and now all of a sudden he's just kind of popping out of the shadows and just trying to screw shit up for Thunderbolt Ross now that Ross is president. However, there is a reason for that, and again, I won't disclose that particular thing from the film, because again, I don't really like spoiling, major plot points that just I basically just don't like revealing the whole damn movie while I review it. I mean, there are just certain things that I think are meant for reviews, and just certain things that you have an open discussion about. And I think just on the review side of things, just talking about major plot points isn't my bag. It's not really how I do shit. It's not what we do here. Anyway, if we're on the topic of the leader, again, like I if there was one disappointing thing for me, I didn't really like the way he looked, because once you get the reveal of what he looks like, it was just like, huh, that's a choice. That's a pretty far cry from the comics. If you've ever seen what the leader looks like and how he operates and what he does, they took some creative liberties. And I will say, if you've been waiting years to see like a tried and true concrete version of the leader, you're probably going to be disappointed. I'm not saying I was disappointed. I was just like, okay, well, this is how they're depicting it. That's fine. I can already see a lot of hardcore comic book fans just shaking their head going, nope, not a fan. And again, like, for me, it wasn't so much the performance, but it was definitely more about how the character was written, how the character looked. The makeup looked fine for what it was. Like, it looked good from a practical standpoint. But again, like, if you've seen what the leader looks like in the comics, there's a lot to be desired, honestly. And I feel kind of bad saying that, because I really do like Tim Blake Nelson. I think he's a great actor. I think he's done a lot of great things. I mean, for crying out loud, he was Mom in Holes. I love Tim Blake Nelson. He's been in so much stuff. And then when he was in The Incredible Hulk, it's like, oh, they're alluding to him becoming the leader by that accident that happens in the third act, and they give him a whole movie here. And it's like, kind of a missed opportunity there. That's really kind of where my big disappointment comes from, honestly. I will say that I think Giancarlo Esposito, with the amount of screen time he was given and what he was tasked to do, with the amount of time they were given to, again, retool this and put him in the movie in place of whatever, or just add whatever, it was good. Like, he clearly he was having fun. I liked him in it. I will also say that the relationship between Sam and damn it, what, Joaquin Torres? Why am I forgetting the new Falcon's name? That's just not fair. No, the relationship dynamic between the two of them is very, very similar to the whole dynamic that Sam and Steve had way back in Winter Soldier and in Civil War, and even Infinity War, and a little bit there towards the end of Endgame. It does feel like, there's a bit of, now that Sam is Captain America, Joaquin is like, yo, I want to be Falcon. I want to be your Falcon. Like, I genuinely look up to you. And there's kind of a joke to play there for laughs of Sam kind of giving him kind of ribbing him a little bit, and like, you're not ready for that. You're not ready for that. But there's then a point in the movie where something happens to Joaquin, and by the end of it, Sam's like, all right, man, you got your wings. I'll teach you how to do the thruster kick. It's all gravy. Now, Isaiah Bradley, again, played by Carl Lumbly, he was great. Like, he was fantastic with what he wanted, with what he was handed in this movie. I loved everything with Carl Lumbly in this film. I love his performance. I love him as a character. I love him as Isaiah Bradley. I love that he is, in essence, taken over the mentorial role to Sam's Cap, now that Steve is no longer in the picture. Like, Sam has an older super soldier, Captain America-esque character to go to train with, to get advice from, and to fight for. Like, it's just such a perfect, I wouldn't say replacement, but it's just really poetic that the character introduced in Falcon and Winter Soldier, then in turn, after becoming like so jaded and bitter by what happened to him all those years ago, which is again another plot point that is part of the plot of Captain America: Brave New World. What happens to Isaiah Bradley kind of comes back here a little bit into play, because even then, with things going on between Sam and Ross, Isaiah's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you became Captain America to save people. You didn't do this to be a government weapon. Like, look what happened to me. I don't want that happening to you. And that's kind of a thing that kind of kicks off the movie. And then it kind of bites Isaiah in the butt a little bit, because of what happens. He's basically framed for trying to murder the president. by way of the leader. That much is very clear. And the driving plot of the film is Sam like, yo, dude, I'm gonna get you out of this because I know you didn't do this. I know this wasn't you. So Carl Lumley was phenomenal in this. I just give him all the flowers. He's fabulous as Isaiah Bradley, and I really like what they did with his character and how his performance really just speaks to a lot of relevant things happening today in a certain respect. And I really, again, I love Carl Lumley. I think he's a fantastic actor in his own right, but my God, this is just such a good performance from him. Now, obviously, the Red Hulk in the room. Harrison Ford, Thaddeus Ross. What can I say? I love Harrison Ford as an actor. I think he was having an absolute blast with this. He very much stepped into some very big shoes by the late, great William Hurt. And the culmination of him becoming Red Hulk is something like you catch it very, very early with how he became Red Hulk. And you're just like, when you figure it out, you're just like, okay, it's a waiting game. Not in a bad way, but you're just like, okay, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? And me, being me, watching some of the promotional footage, the trailers and stuff, knowing it happens at like some kind of presidential address. As soon as I saw the podium and him walking outside, I was like, oh, here we go. Here we go. Red Hulk time. So that was cool. It looked good. It didn't look like a red knockoff of what they've done with Mark Ruffalo. They clearly used some really solid motion capture because Harrison Ford, the Red Hulk looks just like Harrison Ford. It's pretty uncanny, and it's pretty great. Like the fight itself in Washington D.C. at the White House between Red Hulk and Cap, is pretty saucy. Like there's some really great action going. Honestly, there's some really great action going on throughout the majority of this movie. Like it's really good for the most part. It's not quite as pristine as Winter Soldier, but it is definitely nowhere near like an edited hack job mess or a lot of shitty shaky cam. Like it is well done, but again, it's not on that. It doesn't quite reach the bar that Civil War set, I think. Now, Shira Haas as Ruth. She's a fun character because she's like no nonsense. She's President Ross's head of security, like secretary, head of security, something like that. But she was fun. I wasn't really sure what to make of her character. It's very intentional that her character is just very stern and very like all about business, which is totally cool. They kind of give her an outfit that is reminiscent of the character that she is based off of in the comics, just a little bit. Overall, like, I had a lot of fun with this movie. I had fun with what they were doing and the story they were telling. Am I bothered by the fact that it's kind of like a light sequel to The Incredible Hulk? No, not particularly. Am I a little disappointed that they didn't quite ground it all the way? Not really either. No, I think if you're going to test a Captain America who does not have a super soldier serum, and you want to set it to the backdrop of some political-esque thriller that is in the vein of The Fugitive, in a way, in many ways, actually, now that I really think about it. Again, the Harrison Ford's right there, too, as the president. I think having him go up against a Hulk is probably like a great first test, because they make a point in the movie to like have Sam doubt himself. Like, should I have taken this serum? Because I feel absolutely powerless. I can't keep my people safe. I can't do what Steve did. And there is a cameo in this film who gives him the pep talk that he needs. And I was just like, yes, this is why Sam is the perfect pick for Cap following the events of Avengers Endgame. It was really well done. And he was honestly the perfect person to pick the shield up. And there's some really great shield sequences here too this time around. Like Sam does some pretty inventive things with the shield this time in some combat scenarios, and it's pretty great. But yeah, I had a really fun time with Captain America Brave New World. There is one post-credits scene at the very end of it, and by the end of it, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because again, you know, they're alluding to the fact that Sam may or may not start a new set of Avengers, and There's something that happens at the end between Sam and another character, and they kind of hint in a not so direct way that, like, yeah, you know, things are coming. And they don't outright say what things are coming, but they just kind of that's basically kind of the gist of the post-credit scene is things are coming. And Sam is kind of gets kind of like it's kind of like a light bulb moment of like, oh, interesting. But overall, again, you know, had fun with it. Biggest complaints I had, again, were pertaining to the leader, the score not being all that memorable, and some things just kind of just not looking all that great. But overall, you know, I would say probably 3.5 out of 5 stars, maybe 4. Yeah, 3.5. 3.5 stars out of 4. 3.5 out of 5, I should say. And again, like, I don't think there's one bad performance in the movie at all. I just think there were just some things left to be desired, visually speaking. But overall, for a film that cost less than $200 million, stacked with reshoots, it's amazing that this film is cohesive as it is, unless I'm missing something that people are probably going to bring to my attention, which is totally fine. But again, like, I had fun with it. I like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I like what they do with these characters. Otherwise, I wouldn't be wearing a Captain America t-shirt going to see the installment that is right next to me. It was a fun time. It wasn't the greatest installment in their library, but it is by no means the absolute worst. It's not total dog water. But overall, again, just a fun time in this world with memorable characters, some new faces, and overall gives you an idea of who may or may not be leading the next incarnation of the Avengers. Considering Avengers Doomsday is right around the corner and they will start shooting it very soon, do not be surprised to see Sam Wilson pop up in Captain America attire. I wouldn't be. But overall, again, 3 out of 5 stars. Had fun with it. Have my issues with it. But again, go see this movie. Form your own opinion. Do not let the internet dictate whatever you feel about it. By all means, watch the movie. Form your own opinion. I think that'll be. I think that's about all I got to say. You know, have fun with it. Definitely. Like if you're not having fun with it, then what are you wasting your time for? Like I've been looking forward to watching this movie all day. I got to sit down in the theater about a half hour early, snacked out a little bit. Credits are, you know, preview started, trailers came and went, and then finally the movie started. That's another thing that I just remembered. This does not start off like a typical Marvel Studios film with that big flashy intro of Marvel Studios, and then you get the montages of all the Marvel characters and all that shit. No, they kind of pull a Black Widow with it this time, and it's actually really cool. So, again, you know, final verdict, liked more than I did not like. Enjoyed it. If you're looking forward to seeing something this weekend and you want some superhero cheese, go watch this movie. It's a fun time. Again, don't go in expecting the Winter Soldier, but also don't go in expecting Thor: Love and Thunder. I wouldn't even say it's somewhere in the middle. It leans more towards Winter Soldier on the better end, definitely. But tell me what you think. Let me know how you feel. Did you like Captain America: Brave New World? Let me know in the comments section. Hit that like and subscribe button because it really helps me out. And again, it lets me know that you like my stuff, and I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, that is my review for Captain America: Brave New World. Take care.